JinPingMei Original Version Chapter 72. Pan Jinlian picks and beats Ryer, and Wang Sangwan pays homage to Ximen King. It doesn't matter that Ximen King and He Qian, who are on the same road, single table Wu Yunyang was at home. Because Ximen King went to Tokyo and saw that there were many women in the house, she was afraid of causing trouble, so she ordered the door to be closed and the Yemen behind to be locked every night. None of the sisters came out. They were each doing acupuncture in their rooms. If Jingji wants to look for clothes upstairs, Yunyang will ask Chunhong or Lai An'er to follow him out and then check the door regularly, and everything is tight. Therefore, Pan Jinlian was not allowed to associate with Jingji. It's just that Rui's tongue is prepared by her breasts, and she only combines energy with Ryer every day. One day, Yunyang packed out a lot of Ximen Sing's clothes, singlets, and small clothes, and taught Ryer and Han's sister-in-law how to wash them. Chunmai didn't want to wash clothes here, so Kyuju asked him to borrow a mallet. Ryer was beating the clothes with Yingxun, but she said to him, "The day before yesterday, you took a mallet and used it, but you came to ask for it again. While Mrs. Hun is here, you want to beat Dad's trousers and undershirt." Kyuju came up to Chunmai in a temper and said, "I was asked to borrow it for free, but he refused." Yingxun said to take it, but Ryer stopped him and refused. Chunmai said, Yakuyu, Yakuyu. What's the matter with such a living thing? I can't borrow a dry lamp in broad daylight. If I borrow a stick to make a messenger, I won't give it to the future to replace my mother after washing these bound feet. What should I use to beat them with? Kyuju, go back and ask them to borrow them for use. Pan Jinlian was binding her feet on the cane in the room. Suddenly she heard something, and because she was filled with hatred and couldn't find the reason, she cursed. How come you, a thief and an adulterer, don't agree with you? You asked him to go home, and if he didn't agree with you, you scolded her. That adulteress doesn't have anything to do with it. When Chunmai lost her temper, she came to Li Pinger and said, "What's wrong with that one being an outsider? I won't let you use the stick. Now there's another boss in this house," Ryer said, "Yeah, Korean music. Yeah, Korean music. Put the mallet away and use it. Who is here to control it?" He started talking angrily, and he ordered that while Hama is here, take out this sweatshirt for Dad. Come and cotton silk trousers. Kyuju came to ask for it. I said that I would beat your father's clothes a few times, and then he put up a lot of lies and said he wouldn't come. Sister Yingxun was already listening. Unexpectedly, Pan Jinlian followed immediately and scolded, "You wife, don't talk. Your master died, and now you are the one in this house? Who can fuck your father if you can't tie him with clothes? What's the point? My wife is dead, and I want you to wash his clothes for him. You use this method to subdue me. I'm so frightened." Ryer said, "Why did Wu Niang say this, Auntie? Don't you? Are you asking me to arrange it for my father?" Jin Lian said, "The thief stabs the bones, the whore of a female man. What else can you say? Who comes to serve my father with tea in the middle of the night? Who comes to ask for a coat? You did it behind your back. That cocoon. You say I don't know? I'm not afraid even if you sneak it out of your belly," Rui said. "Seriously, there are children who are still dead. I see those children every time." This Jinlian didn't listen, so he listened. With his heart burning and his face flushed, he stepped forward and grabbed his wife's hair, using only his hand to dig into his belly. Fortunately, sister-in-law Han persuaded her to leave. Jin Lian scolded, "Shameless whore, mocking whore. Every time I have time here, I call out, 'You come here, female man. Who are you in this room? You are here to wish my daughter-in-law a new birth? Come, I'm not afraid of you.'" Ryer cried and pulled her hair and said, "Whenever I come here, I don't know what to do to make my daughter-in-law happy. I only know how to make breasts at my father's house." Jin Lian said, "You are breast and do your breast thing. How come you are acting like a fox and a tiger in the house and become a spirit? I have grown up to teach you how to play tricks." Just as he was cursing, he saw Meng Yulu behind him. He walked slowly towards the future and said, "Sixth sister, I invite you to play chess behind me. Why don't you go? But what are you doing here?" He took his hand and sat down in his room, and said, "Sumi, why did you get up?" The golden lotus subsided and ChunMei handed over the tea. After drinking some tea, she said, "Look at how angry this slut is. My hands are cold and I can't pick up the tea. I'm here. I was sewing shoes in the house, and you asked Xiao Luan to come and invite me. I said go and lie down." Lao Wei didn't fall asleep on the bed and saw this little guy busy and beating his skirt. I told him to take it with him, then beat my bound feet out. For a long time, he only listened to chaos, but it was Qiu Chu who asked him for the mallet. He refused and took the mallet away from his hand, saying, "I took one and disappeared, but I came back to ask for it again. Now I'm just waiting to fuck my dad with my clothes." I became angry and asked ChunMei to scold the thief and adulteress. "Since when have you been so bold to surrender? I will teach you how to surrender with every hand. What are you in this room? I broke the sedan pole to marry you. You are worse than Lai Wang's daughter-in-law." So I followed him, and he slapped Shibi in his mouth and scolded me. It wasn't for Mrs. Han's desperate efforts to hold me in the middle that I took out the meat from the mouth of the shameless slut. The eldest sister is also a little uncomfortable, thinking that he has spoiled the dead Lai Wanger. His thieves, slaves and whores taught me to make enemies with him. And even after I fell behind, the pus-stained strips were piled on me, saying that I was responsible for the slave. Now this wife is so spoiled to him, so used to him, that she can't stand him. You do breast work and do breast work. Are you allowed to show off in front of me? I am someone who can't let go of sand in my eyes. There are those shameless people who don't know where they died, and they are still lingering in that house. But when I came back there, I looked at his shadow and bowed. My mouth was like chewing maggots, and I didn't know what to say when he asked for tea in the evening. The slut got up quickly to bring him tea, then covered him with quilt, and the two of them got together. She is just a long-term whore. You're just supposed to be handed tea by a girl, and you're allowed to go and get the brains out of a female man? Why did he ask him if he wanted to wear a coat? So he shamelessly brought pieces of silk from the shop and cut a coat for him. You haven't seen it yet. On the day of the 7th day, his father went into the house to burn paper and saw the girl and his wife sitting on the kang. He didn't say a word, but said, "I don't want the food and wine that I offered after receiving it. Go and eat it." This kind of indulges him. The slut also said, "Daddy, are you coming? I always wait." He didn't want me to step in with 2 or 3 steps and frighten him so much that he became speechless. What a good wife, a thief and an adulterer. She is so greedy that she can take over anyone who is good or bad. It turned out to be a peach trader with burning eyes. That slut's man said she was dead. The man was holding the child the day before yesterday, but he didn't pry at the door. He also keeps things secret from others and keeps his eyes open. Look, he has changed his appearance now. Another Li Pinger has been born. The eldest sister always pushed people who were deaf and pretended to be dumb from behind. But when they opened their mouths, they said no. After hearing this, Yulu just laughed. He said, "How do you know such details?" Jin Lian said, "Nanjing Shen Wanzhen, Beijing withered willow tree. How come you don't know a person's name or the shadow of a tree? Bury a dead body in the snow. It will disappear naturally," Yulu said. "I originally said that this wife has no man. How did a man emerge again?" Jin Lian said, "The world is not sunny, and people can't tell lies. If he doesn't hide it, your family is willing to have him." When he thought about it, his face looked hungry, and his skin was yellow and thin, begging and shrinking your voice. After 2 years of good food, something will happen and a woman will become a man. You can't help but get rid of him now, and you will teach him how to show off his face tomorrow. Suddenly a child is revealed. Who do you think it belongs to? Yulu smiled and said, "You 6 girls, you have the right to belong to me." After saying that, they sat for a while and then the 2 of them went to the back to play chess. Exactly. Who is the descendant of the 3 lights? Everything has no roots but rises by itself. Don't talk too much. One afternoon, Simon King came to King County, instructing Baici, Wang Jing and their luggage to go home first. He sent He Qianhu to the Yamen and watched the mansion being tidied up and settled in before he rode home. Entering the back hall, Wu Yunyang then scooped out water to cleanse the noodles. then ordered the maid to place a table in the courtyard, fill the stove with incense, and make a wish to the heaven and earth. Yoon asked, "Why did you make a wish?" Simon King said, "Don't mention it. I lost my life and came home yesterday, November 23rd. Just after crossing the Yellow River, I went to Bajiao Town, Yushui County, and encountered the wind was strong, the sand and rocks were confusing, and it was impossible to pass. It was getting late, and no one was seen for 100 miles, and everyone was panicked. There were so many packs. What if there was a thief? When he was thrown into an ancient temple, the monk I was so poor that I didn't even have a light at night, so I just ate some bean porridge and spent the night. The next day, when the wind blew, I got up. The pain was 10 times worse than the day before. Although it was hot the day before, it was better. This time it was cold again. The weather has caused many fears. Fortunately, the land is flat. What will happen if we encounter such storms in the Yellow River? I made a wish on the road. On the first day of the 12th lunar month, I will kill pigs and sheep to sacrifice to heaven and earth." Yoon asked again, "Why don't you come home in the first place?" "But what are you doing in the Yemen?" Simon King said. "Jia Longshi has been promoted to direct command, and he can't come." The newly promoted is a craftsman, supervisor, and nephew of the eunuch. His son is from Kian, whose name is Youngshu. He is punished. He is not more than 20 years old. He is a little young man who pinched Shore, and he doesn't know what he is doing. His eunuch has repeatedly asked me to watch over and teach him in everything. I will not send him to the Yemen. What does he know about setting up a place for him here? Now he has 1,200 taels of silver, and I made him, and wants the house in Jia Longshi. His family will not move here until the Jia family moves out. Mr. Jia didn't know who had left Feng with him the day before yesterday. He also gave him some money and gave it to Lin Zhenren. He told Lieutenant Zhu in the hall that he was willing to be sentenced to another 3 years with the rank of commander. Lieutenant Zhu came to the meeting. The master said, "This is a very difficult thing for me. If it weren't for the Zai family who tried their best to maintain me in the middle, I would have been left in the open space. When I went there, my parents-in-law didn't blame me, saying that I was not discreet in my work. I don't know who told him." Yoon said, "I didn't mean to say that you are a bit flustered and your legs are burning with anger. If you have something wrong, sue this one or that one. It's just like trying to get rich. It's just calculations without intention. How can you be prepared if you're not prepared? You don't know what people are doing secretly, and you don't know it yet." Simon King said again, "Master Jia is coming, and he has repeatedly asked me to look after his house morning and night. You can buy some gifts someday. Let's go for a walk." Yoon said, "His wife's birthday is on the second day of the first lunar month, so let's just get over it. From now on, you should change your crazy behavior. As the saying goes, when you meet someone, you should speak clearly to 3 points, but don't throw everything away. There is still a wife. Don't tell the world about your inner and outer heart." Just as he was talking, Diane came and said, "Beyonce asked Dad, do you want to go to Mr. Shia's house?" Simon King said, "Teach him how to eat." Dan agreed and went. Li Jiar, Meng Yulu, Sun Zue, Pan Jinlian, and the eldest sister all came to see Wan Fu, ask questions, and sit with them. Simon King remembered that Li Pinger was there when he returned from his previous trip to Tokyo. As he walked to his room, he bowed to his coffin and shed a few tears. Ryer, Ying Chun, and Shu Chun all kowtowed forward. Yoon then asked Xiao Yu to stay behind, set up a meal, and ordered for taels of silver to be given to those who followed the pony, and took the post back to thank Zhou for guarding. He also asked Lai Xing'er to kill half a pig, half a lamb, 40 kilograms of white flour, a bag of white rice, a jar of wine, 2 legs of fire-smoked, 2 geese, 10 chickens, and a lot of oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar. Send him off with He Qianhu. Another cook was called to agree. I was taking care of things in the hall when suddenly Qin Tunger came in and said, "Master Wen and Father Ying are here to visit." Simon King quickly invited Wen Shukai and the Earl. The two of them bowed to each other again and again, saying that they had worked hard through hardships. Simon King also said, "Meng Ergong looks after the house in the morning and evening." The Earl said, When I got up early, I suddenly heard the chirping of magpies in my room. My servant first said, "I'm afraid a high official is coming home. Why don't you go and have a look?" I then said, "Brother has been up since the 12th, and it has not been half a month yet. How can he come so quickly?" My servant said, "You can see if you are coming or not. Teach me how to dress and go to the house. I don't want my brother to actually come home. Congratulations. Seeing a lot of food, wine, and rice on the hall table." He asked, "Whose family are you sending them to?" Simon King said, "My new colleague, Mr. He, came with me all the way. My little brother hasn't arrived yet. Now he lives in the Yemen. Send a copy to him on the next journey. I also send a letter to invite him to have a cup of Jifeng wine tomorrow. If there is no one else, I invite you and Uncle Wu to accompany you." The Earl said, "One more thing. Uncle Wu and my brother are officials, and Mr. Wen wears a kerchief. How can I, with my little hat, sit with him? Who do you think I am? Do you think I will make him laugh if I offend him?" Simon King smiled and said, "How about I lend you the satin loyalty scarf I bought to wear? And when he asks you, just say he is my eldest son." After saying this, everyone laughed. The Earl said, "To be honest, I have an 8-inch head, and I can't wear yours." When Shu Kai said, "Students are also 8-inch three-pointers. How about wearing the student square scarf with the old man?" Simon King said, "Old sir, don't lend it to him. He is used to borrowing it tomorrow and will go to the Ministry of Rights to become an official. I'm here to pester you again." When Shu Kai smiled and said, "The old gentleman is easy to talk, and even I am offended." After a while, I brought some tea and ate it. When Shu Kai asked, "Jia Gong has been appointed to the capital, so he won't come." Simon King said, "He has become a high official, holding a book, wearing a robe, and using a cane. What is he going to do with such a gorgeous appointment?" After a while, after reading the post, he carried Cheng down and went out to teach Diane to send it off. Simon King took the scholar Wen and the Earl to sit on the heated king in the side room. He also asked the piano boy to go to the courtyard and ask for young boys, Wu Hui, Zheng Chun, Xiao Feng and Zuo Shen, to come and serve him tomorrow morning. After a while, a table was set up to accompany the two of them to have wine. Simon King said, "Take another pair of bell chopsticks and invite your brother-in-law to come and sit down." After a long time, Chen Jingji came over. Bodan sat down horizontally. The four of them poured wine round the fire and talked about the things they had been surprised to hear along the way. The Earl said, "Brother, you have a good heart. One blessing can overcome all disasters. There are villains, and they will all disappear in a moment." When Shu Kai said, "Good people have been in the country for hundreds of years, and they can win and kill the weak. Mr. Zhu Dao is so busy with the king's affairs. God is not willing to harm good people." Simon King asked, "Is there nothing going on at home?" Jingji said, "There is nothing going on at home. It's just that father and from the Ministry of Industry sent people to ask questions twice. He came to ask questions yesterday. I told him that he hasn't come home yet." Just as he was talking, someone suddenly came to report. The governor of the Yemen. All the officials came to report the matter. Simon King immediately stood in the hall and asked him to come in. The two of them knelt down and asked, "When will Dad take office? How much money will be spent on the company's official funds?" Simon King said, "You just have to keep things in order as usual." Ling Shadao said, "Last year, only my father took office. Now that my father has become a full-time employee, I have a new father, he. The two things are happening at the same time. It is different from the old one." Simon King said, "In that case, just give him 10 taels of silver. The two of you should go down." Simon King called back again and told him, "How about the date of taking office? How could you ask Father He to choose a date?" The two said, "Dad He has chosen the 26th day." Simon King said, "In that case, you can just serve me every time." The two went. It was Mr. Kiao who came to visit Deoxy. Simon Qingliu refused to sit down, so he got up to have tea. Simon King came in and drank with the two of them until they dispersed under the lantern. Simon King went to Yun Young's room to rest for the night. The next day, I put wine at home and met He Qianhu. Sister-in-law Wen had already heard about Simon King's visit and told Wang Sangwan to send an invitation. Simon King bought a pair of hawk hooves, to fresh fish, to roast ducks, and a jar of southern wine here, and sent Diane to deliver them as a birthday gift to his wife. He rewarded Dan with 3 pieces of silver, which is no big deal. The main hall is set up to serve wine, with dazzling brocade screens and bright tables and chairs. Uncle Wu, Earl Ying, and Wen Shukai all came early. Simon King sat with them for tea and invited He Qian, who, after a while, Xiao Youer came up and kowtowed. The Earl then asked, "Brother, why aren't you calling me Li Ming today?" Simon King said, "If he doesn't come to my house, I won't be able to invite him." As he was talking, Ping'an was busy taking the message and saying, "Handsome Lord Zhou of Fu has come to pay his respects, so I got off my horse." Uncle Wu, Wen Shukai and Earl Ying were all hiding in the west wing. Simon Qingguan was brought out and welcomed to the hall. After the ceremony was completed, congratulations were said on his promotion. Simon King thanked him again. So the guests and hosts sat down. Zhou Xiaobai asked about the meeting in Beijing, and Simon King told him everything. Zhou Xiaobai said, if Long Shi doesn't come, he will definitely send someone to pick up the family and take him to Beijing. Simon King said, just take it and wait until the moon comes out. Now sir, he lives in the Yamenquan. He lives in Jia Gong's house, and I advocated for him. Guard said, this is even better. Seeing the tables and seats set up in the hall, he asked, who are the guests here today? Simon King said, let's chat and have a drink with Mr. He. I'm sorry, among colleagues. After the two of them had tea, Zhou Xiaobai stood up and said, Rong Ri will join the guards and congratulate you. Simon King said, how dare you work? If you inherit more, you should give first. He bowed and went out, mounted his horse and laughed. Simon King came back, took off his clothes, and accompanied the three of them to prepare a meal in the study. When He Qian arrived in the afternoon, Uncle Wu and others met each other, exchanged greetings, and talked about the cold and warmth. After changing the tea and soup, everyone takes off his clothes. He Qian, who saw that Simon King's family was well matched and the wine and feast were in order. For small elegant silver zithers, elephant boards, and jade lutes were handed out to sit on the table. After drinking till the time of watch, He Qian, who got up and went to the Yamen. Uncle Wu, Earl Ying, and Wen Shukai also resigned. Simon King sent Xiao Youer out, ordered him to be collected, and went to the Golden Lotus room ahead. The woman applied vermilion powder in the room, put on new makeup, and took a scented bath. She was waiting for Simon King to come into his room. With a smile on her face, she stepped forward to undress him, and quickly asked Chun Mai to order tea for him, sent to bed for the night. Their naked bodies are next to each other in the quilt, and their breasts are close to each other on the pillow mat. The woman is full of charm in the clouds and rain. After Simon King twitched, the connection was clear and he couldn't sleep, so he talked deeply about Li Yin on the pillow. After the handover, the lust was not enough, so he played the flute for him from below. This woman only wanted to tie Simon King's heart, and besides, she had been away from home for half a month, and she had been in the dark for a long time. Her lust was like a fire, and she wanted to get into his belly when she got her body. I kept talking about those words all night, and never left my mouth. Simon King wanted to get out of bed to urinate, but the woman refused to let him go and said, my dear, how much pee do you have? Drown it in the slave's mouth. Just swallow it for you. It will save you the cold, warm up and freeze, but it's worth a lot. After hearing this, Simon King became even more joyful and shouted, my dear, who loves me as much as you do? Then he really drowned in the woman's mouth. The woman followed it with her mouth and slowly swallowed it one bite at a time. Simon King asked, is it delicious? Jin Lian said, it's a little salty. You have some fragrant tea to drink with me. Simon King said, the fragrant tea is in my white silk jacket. You can take it at home. The woman pulled his sleeve toward the bedside, took out a few and put them in her mouth. Exactly, the minister is not as thirsty as the prime minister, so he is given a cup of golden stem dew. The judge heard that it was the concubine's way of encouraging her husband and go into any lengths. Although she had to bend down and endure the humiliation, she was almost not ashamed of it. How can you be willing to do this if your husband's wife isn't a bright wife? That night, Simon King and his wife lingered endlessly. The next morning, I went to the Yemen to take office with He Kian-hu and had a public banquet, and the musicians of the two houses happily agreed. After returning home in the afternoon, the platoon troops immediately brought tables and mats. Wang Sangwan sent someone to invite him early. Simon King just packed up and came to report, "Daddy in from the Ministry of Industry is here to pay my respects." The panicked Simon King dressed up and came out to greet him. And Langzhong, the chief minister of the food temple, wears a gold-trimmed belt and a white pheasant patch, followed by many officials, all smiling. And they go to the hall to celebrate the ceremony, say congratulations to each other, and sit down separately for the guest and the host. And Langzhong said, "The student sent people to ask several times, saying that Siquan has not returned yet." Simon King said, "Exactly. I have to wait until I see the court introduction in Beijing before I get up and come back." After a while, after the tea soup was finished, and Ling Zhongfang said, "Students, there is one thing that should not be blasphemed. Kai Xiaodong, the ninth son of Mr. Kai, the prefect of Zhujiang, is coming to Beijing for a pilgrimage. A letter came the day before yesterday, and he will arrive in the morning and evening. The student is working with Song Songquan, Jin Yunye, and Huang Taiyu, and wants to invite him to a banquet in his house. I don't know if he will be allowed." Simon King said, "The old gentleman respects your orders. How dare you violate it? When will the appointment be made?" said in Langzhong. "On the 27th, tomorrow the students will send the disciples over, and I will take care of it," which shows the great love. After speaking, he served another cup of tea, made a speech, got up, mounted his horse, and left with a drink. Simon King immediately went out and went to Wang Zhaoxuan's mansion to attend the banquet. When I got to the door, I sent my greeting card first. Wang Sangwan hurriedly came out to greet him and went to the hall to greet him. On the front of the hall, there is a plaque inscribed in gold with the title Shizang Hall. On the doors on both sides, it is written the trees are ancient, and the mountains and river stone belts are new. After Wang Sangwan and Simon King finished their ceremony, he respected Simon King and sat down, so he set up a chair beside him to accompany him. After a while, the tea was brought, handed over to each other, and collected from left to right. They chatted with each other for a while, and then arranged a banquet and passed the wine. It turned out that Wang Sangwan asked two young boys to play and sing. Simon King said, "Please come out and see the old lady." The panicked Wang Sangwan ordered the left and right to speak. After a while, he came out and said, "Dad, please see you later." Wang Sangwan asked Simon King to come inside. Simon King said, "Xianxi, you should guide me first." So he walked into the middle hall. Mrs. Lin had already been wearing a head full of pearls and emeralds, a bright red robe with sleeves, a gold and jasper belt around her waist, and a black brocade and 100-flower skirt. She was as smooth as a silver man. Simon King saluted and said, "Madam, please turn over." Lin said, "My lord is a guest. Please turn up." After giving in for half a day, the two of them kowtowed together. Lin said, "I don't know what is good and what is good. I insulted you the day before yesterday. Masterman killed those people again, and I can't understand it. I have prepared a glass of water and wine today. Please come over. I'm sorry. I cowed out a thank you. How can I receive a gift from you again? This makes me feel disrespectful and unworthy of it." Simon King said, "How dare you?" The student went to Tokyo for official business and missed the birthday greetings to the old lady. I gave the old lady random gifts as a reward. Seeing Wen's sister-in-law nearby, she said, "Old Wen, please bring me a cup of longevity wine while my wife and I pass you a glass of birthday wine." At the same time, he called Dan to come up. It turned out that in Simon King's felt bag, he prepared a set of clothes similar to those of the Jin dynasty, which he put on a plate to offer. When Lin saw it, he was dazzled by the golden color and was filled with joy. Sister-in-law Wen immediately held up the golden cup and silver table. Wang Sangwan asked Xiao Yu to come in with a musical instrument and play and sing. Mrs. Lin said, "Why did you ask him to come in? He just agreed outside." At that moment, Simon King finished the cup, and Mrs. Lin also offered one in return to thank Simon King. Then Wang Sangwan and Simon King passed the wine, and Simon King was about to return the gift. Lin said, "Sir, please stand up and accept his gift." Simon King said, "I dare not. How can I be so polite?" Mrs. Lin said, "Sir, how can you say this? You have such a high rank. You can't be his father. The child has been out of school since he was a child and has never followed a good person. If you are an adult, he is willing to love you and teach him everything. He is a good person. Today, I am here to teach him to become a foster father. But there is a drawback. If you are taught by an adult, you will not protect your shortcomings." Simon King said, "Although what the old lady said is true, my son is a virtuous and intelligent person. He is still young and at the beginning of his career. In the future, he will naturally be open-minded and change his ways. The old lady does not need to mind." Immediately Simon King was taught to turn up, and Wang Sangwan took the cup, handed him 3 minutes of wine, and received his for bows. After handing it over, Simon King also turned down and bowed to Mrs. Lin as a thank you, and Mrs. Lin returned the blessing with a smile. From then on, Wang Sangwan called Simon King his father when he saw him. Exactly. The good will always be suppressed and the good intentions will be suppressed. And the power will be the most important thing. Evil leader Yu Xin. There is another poem that sighs, "Men and women have never been paid equally, and it is really shameful to show off one's beauty and engage in adultery." The 3 officials didn't understand what he meant, so they even kowtowed to his mother. After passing the wine, Mrs. Lin ordered Wang Sangwan, "My lord, please sit in front and take off your clothes." Dan brought the Zhongjing scarf in exchange. After a while, he sat down at the table. Xiao Yu started to play and sing. The kitchen servant came up to cut the path, and Dianan served him with rewards. At that moment, he cut 5 dishes, sang 2 songs, and came up with a candle. Simon King stood up and said goodbye. Wang Sangwan repeatedly asked him to stay and invited him to his academy. Inside the 3-room small pavilion, there are flowers and bamboos and elegant cultural relics. There is a gold powder paper tablet hanging on the front, which is called 3 Springs Poetry Boat, and 4 scrolls of ancient paintings are hung on the 4 walls. Simon King then asked, "Who is Sangwan?" Wang Sangwan just avoided answering and did not dare to answer. It took him half a day to say, "It's my son's nickname." Simon King was speechless. He brought the high pot over and threw the pot into the pot to drink, for little children were playing and singing nearby. Mrs. Lin just sent out extra dishes of vegetables and fruits from behind. By the time of the second watch, Simon King was already half intoxicated. He just got up, rewarded the little girl and the cook, and made a speech to go home. When I got home, I went straight to the Golden Lotus room. It turned out that the woman was still asleep, so she had just taken off her crown, put on her bun in a bun, put on light makeup, and was cooking jade stamens for tea in the room. The fragrant golden scent was waiting for her. Seeing Simon King come in, he was overjoyed. He hurriedly took the clothes and asked JinPingMei to order a cup of tongue bud tea for Simon King to eat. Simon King ate. Then JinPingMei took off her boots and belt and went to bed. The woman took off her jewelry under the lamp, changed into her sleeping shoes, got into bed, and slept with her head crossed. Simon King put an arm on the woman's pillow, hugging her in his arms, like the warm fragrance of nephrite. With their breasts touching each other, their faces close together when replaced for, and they smacked each other. Its tongue. After a while, the sweet saliva melted into the heart, and the spirit was clear. The woman kept teasing his words. Simon King asked, "My son, I am not at home. Do you miss me or not?" The woman said, "You have been gone for half a month, and I feel relieved at that moment. The night is long, and I am alone in the desert. I couldn't sleep. I asked how I warmed the bed, but it was just a cold. My legs couldn't stretch out when they were cold, so I had to huddle up in pain. I couldn't wait for nothing. I don't know how many tears were shed on the pillow. I'm lagging behind," JinPingMei shower. Seeing me sighing and sighing, he teased me to play chess at night. And when it was time to wake up, my wife, and I slept on the same bed together on our feet. My brother, this is the way you feel. I don't know how you feel. Simon King said, it's weird. Even though there are them in this family, no one knows that I prefer you. The woman said, well, you are still coaxing me. You are eating from the bowl and looking at the pot. Are you saying that I don't know? Thinking that you and Lai Wang's daughter-in-law are like mixing honey with oil? You ignore me. When Li Ping'er fell behind and gave birth to a child, she looked like a black-eyed chicken to me. Where did everyone go today? Only the slave is still there. You are like the popcorn in the wind, rolling up and down, and now the thief of Ryer has risen to stab the bones. He asked what was going on. It was just breasts, but when he saw that his man was there, she was a living wife. I won't argue with you if you want him. Tomorrow, you'll teach the man how to let the sheep out at the door. You are an official and a eunuch. Will it be heard well? Look at this thief and whore. You went there the day before yesterday, and Tong Chun-mai used a mallet, and she yelled and made a fuss with me, and never let me say a word. Simon King said, well, my son, he will follow why. He's just a subordinate. Are there 7 or 8 of them who dared to contradict you? If you have a strong hand, he will pass, but if you use a low hand, he will not be able to pass. The woman said, Kai, Cal, that sounds nice. Without Li Ping'er, he would be in trouble. I want you to say to him, if you serve me well, I will share my mother's property with you. Do you really mean this? Simon King said, don't be suspicious. I said this. If you forgive him, I will teach him to kowtow to you and accompany you tomorrow. The woman said, I don't want him to accompany you either, and I won't allow you to sleep in that room. Simon King said, I will sleep there. For other reasons, because I can't get over Sister Lee's love. I'm guarding Linger there, who has any personal jealousy with him. I don't believe you, the woman said. A person has been dead for 100 days. How can he keep his spirit? He is not keeping vigil in that house. He belongs to the rice barn, and he rings the bell in the first half of the night. And the girl hears it banging loudly in the second half of the night. After saying a few words, Simon King became anxious. He put his arms round his neck and kissed her, saying, what a strange little slut. You are so Zhangzi. Then he ordered him to hang himself over the mountain to beg for fire. Those words came later. He inserted it into the female's vagina, hugged her buttocks, and slapped her with all his strength, making a loud sound. At the same time, he ordered the woman to call Dadong and Daxi and asked, are you afraid of me? Don't you dare to take care of me again. The woman said, it's weird, slave. I don't care about you for the sake of heaven. I know you can't leave this whore. Tomorrow, ask me where you are allowed to go. If he asks you for something, you must tell me, but you are not allowed to steal it from him secretly. If you don't agree, I will find out and see if I complain. I will refuse. There's nothing wrong with this slut. I also showed you Li Ping'er's background and coaxed you so much that I almost didn't become a redundant person. You rotten peach dealer, bean sprout lie. You're so serious. What's the matter? I've become a bit of a thief now, said Simon King laughed. At present, the 2 bad guys are raining and clouding, and they won't rest until the 3rd watch. Exactly, it is rare in the world to carry a rain cage, and the enchanting figure seems to be difficult to control. All night long, I confess my love to you, leaving the east wind behind. The 2 slept side by side until dawn. The woman was not full of lust, so she couldn't help twiddling her hands. She immediately started twiddling the handle and shouted, Dear Dada, I want to sleep on you, while crawling on Simon King's body, pouring candles on him, and then just rubbing his neck. Simon King asked Simon King to hold his waist tightly with both hands, and he pulled it up as hard as he could while crawling on top of him and rubbing it once. The words gradually disappeared to the root, and the rest were blocked by the support and could not enter. The woman then said, My Dada, let me make a white silk belt for you during the day. You put the monk and your soda medicine in it, and I will put on 2 long belts. When you sleep, you pierce it at the root, but use these 2 straps to tie it round the back waist. They are tight, soft, and have to be put in all the way, but they are not as hard as this support, which is painful. Simon King said, My son, you can do it. The medicine is in the magnetic box. You can just install it at home. The woman said, why don't you come here at night? Let's try it. Okay. So the two of them had some fun. I saw Dan coming in with a post and asked JinPingMei, Dad, have you gotten up yet? Dad sent someone to deliver the money. He also brought in 2 jars of wine and 4 pots of flowers and trees. JinPingMei said, Dad hasn't gotten up yet. Tell him to wait. Dan said, he rarely takes shortcuts, and he has to rush to Shinjuku Gate to reply. Not wanting Simon King to hear it in the room, he asked Diane through the window to ask questions. He took the post in, opened it and read it. It said, I am sending you 4 envelopes, totaling 8 taels. There is only a table in Sheodong, and the rest are just drinking. Those who look up to and follow you should pay attention, which shows the great love. There are 4 pots of flowers on the outside for fun and 2 bottles of Zhejiang wine to help entertain guests. Thank you very much. Simon King looked at it and stood up without combing his hair. He wore a felt scarf and a velvet cloak, and walked out of the hall, asking father and to come in, submit your share of capital. Simon King was filled with joy when he saw 4 pots of flowers and plants. 1 pot of red plum, 1 pot of white plum, 1 pot of jasmine, 1 pot of magnolia and 2 jars of southern wine. Receive it quickly. I sent a reply and rewarded the visitor with 5 coins, because he asked, Dad, when will we come tomorrow? Do you need actors or not? The visitor said, they all came early. The actors use sea salt. After that, he was sent away. Simon King asked his left and right to carry the flowers and plants to the Kangchunwu study, and at the same time asked Diane to call the actors, and at the same time exchanged the money with Lai Anner as the comprador. It was Meng Yu's birthday again that day, and Xiao Yaoer was asked to play and sing at night in the courtyard, press 1 end. But he said that Earl Ying was at home. He took 5 pieces of paper and asked Ying Bao to hold the box and go to the center of the house opposite Simon King to write a letter of invitation to Wen Shukai. I want to invite Simon King's 5 wives to have a full moon at home on the 28th. Just as he went out and turned around the street, he saw a person behind him shouting, Second father, please come back. The count turned around and looked back to see it was Li Ming, and stood still. Li Ming walked up to him and asked, Where are you going, second father? The earl said, I have something to do with Master Wen. Li Ming said, I still have something to say when I get home. I saw an idle man behind him, holding a box. The count could not help but come into the main hall again. Li Ming kowtowed quickly, took the box and put it down. When he opened it, he found a roast ducks and 2 bottles of old wine. He said, Young man is not that big of a deal. These little things are filial to my second father and he appreciates others. The little one has a saying, Come to young and your second father. He knelt on the ground and couldn't get up. The earl held up his hand and said, Silly boy, just say what you have to say. How can you buy a gift? Li Ming said, I have been in my father's house since I was a child. I promised that in the past few years. Now that my father has taken care of others, I don't need him anymore. It's just about Sister Gui's affairs. Each family has their own affairs. I really don't know about it. Now my father is strange, over there, even the little one is weird. This person has been wronged and has nowhere to appeal, so he comes to sue the second father. The second father comes to see his father in the house, and must say something nice for the little one. That is Sister Gui. Some of them are half-missed, and they don't do small things. It doesn't matter if my father wants to annoy me, my colleagues will bully me more and more. The earl said, It turns out you didn't go to the house these days. Li Ming said, I never went there. The earl said, I Dao arranged wine to greet Father He yesterday, and asked Wu Hui, Zheng Chun, Xiao Feng and Zuo Shen to agree there. I asked why I didn't see you. I asked your father, and your father said, if he didn't come, I didn't invite him. Silly boy, why don't you just walk around and dance? Who are you angry with? Li Ming said, if you don't call me in the father's house, how can you go? The day before yesterday, I promised there that today Senyang is celebrating her birthday. And in Guanar called to more people in the morning. Tomorrow my father will serve wine, and it will be the 4 of them again. Not the younger one. How come the younger one is not in a hurry? I hope the second father will make it clear for the younger one, and the younger one will come and kowtow to the second father. The Earl said, there is nothing I won't say for you. I have done so many things for others in the past. You ask me for these things, but I won't say it for you. You rely on me and you still get this gift. Go back. You are the rich man there. I accept you. Just follow me now and wait until I tell your father slowly. Li Ming said, if the second father doesn't accept this gift, the younger one won't dare to go. Although the second father doesn't care about it, he is still trying to be poor. After repeated entreaties, the count accepted the gift. He asked for 30 coins and sent the man with the box back. So they went out together and came to the house opposite Simon King. Entering the front door of the academy, the door knocker rang and said, is Mr. Quickshuan at home? When Xiu Kai was writing a note under the study window and hurriedly responded, please sit inside. The painter opened the door and the count was sitting in the open room. When Xiu Kai immediately came out to meet him, said politely, offered to sit down, and said, old man, you got up early. Where are you going? The Earl said, how dare you come and write a few letters of invitation in large strokes. In this way, on the 28th my son is 1 month old, please sit down with his ladies in the house. When Xiu Kai said, where is the post? In the future, students will write it. The count immediately ordered Ying Bao to take out 5 posts and hand them over. When Xiu Kai got into the room and had only written 2 words, the chess boy hurriedly came over and said, Master Wen, write 2 more notes, and's name. I want to invite Kiao's mother-in-law and eldest daughter-in-law. The piano boy came to pick up the 2 posts from Aunt Han and Menger Jinzi outside the door. Have you sent them away? When Xiu Kai said, your brother-in-law looked at them and sent them away for half a day. The chess boy said, Master Wen wrote these 2 in for more, please ask Aunt Huang, Aunt Fu, Aunt Han and Mrs. Gan to come and pick them up. Soon he was sent away. When Lion came to pick up these 4 posts, the Earl asked, your father is at home, but has he gone to the Yamen? Lion said, Dad did not go to the Yamen today. He was in the hall watching the collection of gifts. When Xiu Kai said, Mr. Wang's house was late for the banquet yesterday. When the Earl asked about the royal residence, when Xiu Kai said, it's in the Jiaoshuan mansion. The count knew the reason. For a long time, Lion waited for the post to arrive and just finished writing it with the count. The Earl immediately brought Li Ming over here. Simon King, with his head splayed, only collected gifts and sent replies in the hall, while the table was ranged next to him. When you see the count coming, please sit down. The Earl thanked him for his kindness the day before, and asked, why did I order this table? Simon King told in Langshong to ask him to serve as the host, and told him about the invitation to Magistrate Kai. The Earl asked, will you be an actor or a young actor tomorrow? Simon King said, I have called all the high-end disciples, and I have prepared for more young actors here to agree. The count said, brother, those 4, Simon King said, Wu Hui, Xiao Feng, Zheng Chen, Zuo Shun. The Earl asked, brother, why don't you use Li Ming? Simon King said, he already has Gao Jie, and he doesn't care what I do here. The Earl said, brother, why do you say this? Only if you call him. Will he dare come on? I don't know that you have always been annoyed with him, but everyone is doing their own business and not doing other things. How does he know what the third end is doing? You will never give up to him. He came to my place this morning and told me in tears, don't say that my younger sister is in my father's house. I only promised to have someone else for a few years. Today, I have someone else, and I am not the younger one. He repeatedly risked his life to punish the curse, and didn't know a word about his third aunt. If you, it's annoying to him, but it's not difficult for him. What's the big deal for him if you try to make a move? How can he resist it? He told Li Ming, come here and tell your father in person. Why are you just hiding? Since ancient times, an ugly daughter-in-law is not allowed to see her parents-in-law. Li Ming stood beside the witch, lowered his head and clasped his feet, looking at the 2 people talking like a ghost in a secluded hall. Hearing the Earl call him, he quickly walked in, knelt on the ground, kowtowed, and said, Dad is visiting again. Things are small there, but I know one thing. The little ones were run over by cars and horses, and were tortured to death by officials. Dad went there before. Heaven and earth have given me such a great kindness, and I can't repay it with my family being shattered to pieces. No matter how angry I am today, I made my peers laugh at me, and he also bullied me. Where can I find a master for me? After saying this, Hao Dao cried bitterly, kneeling on the ground, unable to get up. The Earl said from the sidelines, "Well, let me just give him a look. You don't see the faults of a villain, so don't say that he is not bad at all. It's just that he has some shortcomings. Since he is like this, you can just forgive him." He also called Li Ming, "Come here. You have been wearing green clothes and hugging black pillars since ancient times. Now that your father has said goodbye, he won't annoy you anymore. You should be more cautious in the future," Li Ming said. What the second father said is that if you know your mistakes, you must change them. You will know them in the future. Simon King pondered for a long time and then said, "Since your second father has said it again and again, I won't annoy you anymore. Just get up and agree." The Earl said, "Why don't you kowtow?" Li Ming kowtowed quickly and stood beside him. The Earl had just ordered Ying Bao to take out 5 invitations and handed them to Simon King, saying, "On the 28th, I will be in full moon. Please send me your blessings to all my sisters-in-law." After Simon King finished watching, he taught Anna, "Send the box to my aunt to see. I won't be able to leave in the future. To tell you the truth, tomorrow is your third wife's birthday, and Anna is serving wine at home. On the 18th, he wants to see Mr. Jia and his wife again. How can he go?" The Count said, "Brother is killing someone. If my sister-in-law doesn't go, the garden is full of fruits. Who can I rely on? I will go into the house and invite her in person." After a while, I saw Lion taking out an empty box. The aunt said, "Cover it more. I understand." The Earl handed the box to Ying Bao and said with a smile, "Brother, just coax me to get up. If my sister-in-law doesn't go, I will smash my head in. I might as well ask my sister-in-law to go away." Simon King told the Earl, "Don't go away. We'll have dinner when I comb my hair." After that, he went to the back. The Earl then said to Li Ming, "How is it? I didn't say that just now. He is very annoyed with you. He has a rich temperament. Just say a few words to him." As the saying goes, anger does not hit the smiling face. Nowadays, you are a flatterer. You do business with a lot of capital, and you still have a certain amount of kindness. If you are a tough boat, no one will care about you. You have to adapt to changes and work like water before you can transfer money. If you hit the wall, others are full, but you are still hungry. How many years have you promised him, and you still don't know his nature? Tomorrow, I will ask your sister Gui to come over to warm up your feet, and you will get to 4-1. I will celebrate Sanying's birthday with him, so I will stay with him when Lyre comes. Everything will be over." Li Ming said. The second father said it. "When the younger one gets home, go and tell the third mother." As he said this, Li Anner set the table and said, "Please sit down, and I will come out soon." After a while, Simon King came out from the dressing room, sat with the Earl, and asked him, "You haven't seen Lao Sun and Shu Mazi for several days." The Earl said, "I asked him to come, and he knew that I was annoyed with him." I said, "Brother is still very angry. Love is a matter of looking up and down." So that day the grasshoppers pounced on them. "What dare you do?" He always swore that he would never leave the Wang family again. He said that he came to his house for a drink yesterday. He always vowed not to leave with the Wang family boy. Do not know either. Simon King said, "Yesterday he was like this. He gave me a big drink and asked me to be his godfather. It was the second watch. How come he never interacted with him again? He just didn't do anything that would bother me. Let him go. What do I care about him? I'm not really his father. I can't care about him." The Earl said, "Brother, what I said is absolutely true. The two of them will also come to pay homage to you and explain to you in a day or two." Explain. Simon King said, "You teach him to just come here and pay no attention to the courtesy." When Anna came and brought some rice, it was nothing more than cooking delicious food. Simon King ate porridge, and the Count ate rice. After eating, Simon King asked, "Have those two little boys come?" Lion said, "They came today." Simon King asked him to have dinner with Li Ming. One Hanzuo and the other Xiao Jin came forward, kowtowed, and went down to eat. After a long time, the Earl stood up and said, "I'll go. I don't know how I'll be waiting for you at home. It's the most difficult job for a humble person. I bought it from under the stove directly to the front door of the main room. Don't you want to buy those?" Simon King said. "You go. After you have finished your work, come and sit down in the evening to wish your wife a happy birthday and kowtow. This is also your filial piety." The Earl said, "This will definitely come. And I will send you a favor as well." After that, we went on our way. It's just that the wine is deep and affectionate, and the words of a close friend are long. Don't let the Prime Minister's respect go to the thatched cottage in the Ming Dynasty.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.